You know how family gatherings can be? The sound of laughter echoing through the rooms, dishes being passed around, familiar stories making their rounds once again. But that particular evening, after everyone had said their goodbyes, something unexpected happened that I still think about. My nephew Marcus stayed behind. And in the quiet that followed, he opened up to me in a way that caught me completely off guard. Before we dive in, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Leave a comment below. I always enjoy connecting with you. The evening had unfolded exactly as you'd expect from our family. Warm, chaotic in the best way, filled with comfortable noise. My brother's place was buzzing with energy. The aroma of glazed ham and peach cobbler hung in the air, and steady conversation floated from one room to the next. I'd claimed a spot on the love seat in the den. I don't usually gravitate toward big family events, but this night felt different, comforting in a way that reminded me why these moments matter. Marcus had been moving through the space all evening, helping his dad with serving platters, exchanging jokes with his siblings, even snagging the last piece of cornbread before anyone else could claim it. He'd changed so much since I'd last seen him, not just in appearance, but in the way he carried himself. At 30, he had this quiet self-assurance mixed with thoughtfulness that made him seem older. It was nearly 11 when the last guests began gathering their coats. I stood by the entryway, exchanging warm hugs and making half-promises to get together soon. My brother was busy packing up leftovers for people to take home. Marcus lingered near the doorway, watching quietly as the house gradually emptied. "Need help cleaning up?" I asked once the door closed behind the final visitor. "Yeah, that'd be good," he said, his voice distant, and followed me toward the kitchen. The house felt completely transformed, quieter, gentler. The symphony of voices had faded, replaced by the soft hum of the refrigerator and the gentle clink of dishes. My brother's footsteps echoed upstairs as he went to check on his youngest, leaving Marcus and me alone. We worked side by side for several minutes without speaking. I rinsed plates and passed them over. He dried them carefully and stacked them in the cabinet. The pendant light cast a warm glow across the counter, and every so often I'd glance up to find him looking my way, not awkwardly, but as though he was gathering courage. Finally, he broke the silence. "Aunt Laura," he began, his voice quieter than usual. "Can I talk to you about something? Something I haven't really discussed with anyone?" I paused, somewhat surprised. "Of course," I said, setting down the sponge. He took a breath, his eyes on the counter as if collecting his thoughts. "You've always been different from everyone else in the family. You actually pay attention, really pay attention. I've always felt like I could be real with you, but I never have been. Not about the things that actually weigh on me." His words hung in the space between us. I didn't respond right away, instead letting him continue. "I've been dealing with a lot lately," he went on, his voice dropping. "Things I haven't shared with my parents or my buddies. I wasn't sure anyone would get it. But tonight, seeing you here, I thought maybe you would." I felt something shift in the room, a quiet trust settling in. This wasn't casual chit-chat. This was Marcus opening a door that had been locked. I moved a bit closer, resting my hand on the edge of the counter. "Whatever's on your mind, you can share it. I'm not here to judge." He looked up then, and I saw genuine vulnerability there. "It's hard to put into words," he said softly. "But I've been feeling unmoored, like I'm just going through the motions and nobody really notices. Except maybe you." The way he said it made my heart ache. This wasn't about releasing frustration. It was about being truly seen. We stood there for a long moment, neither speaking. I could hear the faint sound of a television upstairs, the occasional creak of old wood, and our steady breathing. There was something intimate about that moment, the kind that doesn't need words. Finally, I nodded. "Then let's start now. Tell me what's going on." He hesitated briefly before pulling out a chair at the kitchen table. I joined him, the warm light creating a circle around us, blocking out everything else. His voice was controlled at first, but as he spoke, it became more raw, like walls coming down one by one, and that's how it started. The conversation that would reshape how we understood each other. Marcus's words came slowly at first, like someone testing the temperature of water before diving in. I sat across from him, hands wrapped around a mug of peppermint tea I'd made without thinking, watching steam rise into the soft light. He talked about his career, how every week felt identical to the last. The corporate environment felt suffocating. the people around him becoming indistinguishable. "It's not that I hate what I do," he said, fidgeting with a paper napkin. "It's that I don't feel like any of it has meaning." I listened, nodding when his voice wavered, offering quiet encouragement without interrupting. I could see the burden he carried, the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying invisible weight. "I've tried talking to friends," he continued, "but they either tell me to suck it up or they change the topic. I think they don't know what to do when I'm not cracking jokes." "That's because most people struggle with genuine honesty," I said gently. "They're comfortable with surface-level stuff. But you don't have to do that with me." For the first time that evening, he smiled, small but real. That's why I stayed. I didn't want to let this chance slip away. The space between us felt charged, not uncomfortably, but intimate, focused, as if the entire house had shrunk to just this table. I reached across and placed my hand over his. His skin was warm, the gesture anchoring us both. "Marcus," I said, "you matter more than you know. You've always mattered to me." His eyes met mine, and there was something there that looked like relief. "You have no idea how much I needed that," he said quietly. The wall clock ticked softly. We didn't rush to fill the silence. Instead, he leaned back, breathing easier, as if my words had released some invisible pressure. Then after a pause, he said something that caught me off guard. "You've been more of an anchor for me than anyone in my life. And I've never said that because I wasn't sure you'd believe it." I squeezed his hand gently. "I believe it. And I'm grateful you're telling me." He let out a soft laugh, not amused, more like disbelief. "I'm 30 years old, and this is the first real conversation I've had like this." "Isn't that crazy?" "Not crazy," I said. "Just rare. And rare things deserve to be treasured." We sat there for what felt like hours, though I knew time was passing quickly. Occasionally, wind rattled the window, reminding me the night was moving forward. But neither of us wanted to end it. At one point, he leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes steady. "I don't know what direction my life is going, but I know I want to become someone who makes people feel the way you're making me feel right now." That's when I understood how significant this moment was. Not just for him, but for me too. The bond forming between us wasn't every day. It was built on trust, on willingness to sit in discomfort and share what usually stays hidden. When my brother eventually came back downstairs, hair slightly mussed, Marcus and I were finishing our tea. My brother smiled at us, unaware of what had transpired. But as Marcus glanced at me before standing, there was understanding in his eyes. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The next morning, I woke early, dawn light filtering through my curtains. I lay there replaying last night. It felt surreal. In a family where everyone talks over each other, I'd never experienced anything like that, especially not with Marcus. By the time I got to the kitchen, my brother was up, moving around with coffee and bagels. He was humming. Marcus wasn't there. "He went for a run," my brother said, noticing my glance. Wanted to clear his head. I nodded, hiding the flutter in my chest. I poured coffee and sipped slowly, but my mind wasn't on breakfast. I kept thinking about how Marcus had looked at me. Vulnerable, open, like he'd finally found someone who understood. When Marcus returned, he brought cool morning air with him. He greeted us both, then sat across from me, a slight smile on his face. "Morning, Aunt Laura." Something about how he said my name felt different, intentional. My brother moved in and out, handling weekend tasks, completely unaware of the quiet understanding between Marcus and me. It felt like we were having our own conversation through glances and pauses. Later, when my brother left for errands, Marcus and I ended up in the den. He was looking through an old photo album. I joined him on the couch. "This was you at 23, right?" he asked, pointing to a picture of me in a floral dress at some forgotten gathering. I laughed. "Yes, and I remember being so uncomfortable. My mom insisted I wear it." He studied the photo longer. "You look genuinely content there, at ease." I like seeing that. The compliment surprised me, not inappropriate, but sincere in a way that made me feel truly seen. We continued through the album, sharing memories, but gradually things became more personal. He told me about feeling isolated in his early 20s, wishing there was someone he could trust. "That's why last night mattered so much," he said quietly. You gave me something I didn't know I needed. I felt warmth spread through me, from his words, but more from their truth. Marcus, you've always had that capacity. You just needed someone to help you recognize it. We sat there, eyes meeting, the album forgotten. The air felt heavier, electric. Then my brother's car pulled in, breaking the spell. Marcus closed the album, expression composed, but eyes holding mine just a heartbeat longer. The rest of the day passed ordinarily, lunch, casual talk, background TV, but underneath, there was understanding, whatever this connection was, it wasn't finished. When I left that evening, Marcus walked me out. The sky was painted in soft purples and oranges. Thanks for last night, he said simply. Anytime, I replied, meaning it deeply. As I drove away, my heart felt lighter, but also restless. Something was drawing me back even as I left. 4 weeks passed before I saw Marcus again. Life pulled me back into routines. But every evening I thought about that kitchen conversation, the quiet connection, the way he'd walked me out. My brother invited me for Sunday lunch. When I arrived, familiar cooking smells wrapped around me. The table was set, laughter coming from the kitchen. Marcus was there, sleeves rolled, helping prep food. When he saw me, his smile was warm and genuine. Hey, Aunt Laura. Lunch was animated, stories overlapping, everyone talking at once. But periodically, I'd catch Marcus watching me, and each time it felt like continuing a conversation only we heard. After eating, people scattered. My brother started clearing dishes, Marcus offered to help. I stayed to organize silverware, and like before, the noise faded, leaving just us. You've been in my thoughts, he said quietly, drying a bowl. The words surprised me, but I kept steady. And you in mine. He set the bowl down, eyes holding mine. I thought about what you said, about not hiding with people who matter. I didn't realize how much I was concealing until you saw through it. I felt something soften. We all hide, Marcus. The key is finding someone who makes you feel safe enough to stop. The silence wasn't awkward. It was grounding. He stepped closer, appropriately, but enough that I could see the warmth in his eyes. I'm glad it's you, he said simply. I smiled, chest tight. Me too. We finished slowly, extending the moment. When the last dish was done, he walked me out again. Outside, the air was crisp, carrying wood smoke scent. We stood there, porch light glowing softly. I don't know where life leads, Marcus said, voice steady but quiet. But I know this. You've changed how I see things. How I see myself. I swallowed against the tightness in my throat. You've done the same for me, he nodded, tucking my words away somewhere safe. Then, with a final glance that lingered just long enough, he stepped back inside. I drove home in silence, the world outside just passing lights, and I understood something profound. Connections like this are rare. They don't happen often, but when they do, they stay with you. Marcus came to me with his truth, and I met him with mine. And in doing so, we gave each other something precious, to be truly seen, heard, and accepted. Sometimes the most meaningful relationships aren't romantic or dramatic. They're two people choosing honesty in a world that rewards pretense. That evening wasn't an ending. It was a beginning of trust, understanding, and the kind of connection that reminds you why vulnerability matters, why honesty heals, and why some conversations change everything. Marcus taught me it's never too late to open that door. And I showed him there will always be someone ready to listen. Sometimes that's all any of us really need.